The theme for this month is frustration. Now, you want to investigate a topic like this to see, is it helpful or is it not helpful? Um, how does frustration make you feel? Does it create the kind of life you want to have? And this is really, I think, what we're looking at is how does our mental state, whether it's motivation or frustration or any of these topics, how does that mental state create the kind of life that we want to have? So I want to dig into this one topic of frustration to help you understand if it's going to really add value or not to your life. I'd like to share a story that gives some insight into how different people understand frustration. This takes me back to around 2002. For many years, I was attending the Outdoor Retailer Show in Salt Lake City. And this was when I was developing this Warrior's Way material and teaching it and getting close to writing the book, The Rock Warrior's Way. And so I would go up and down the aisles at the Outdoor Retailer Show talking with pro climbers, wanting to see, what they thought about this approach that I was developing. And, we talked about different concepts like motivation or risk taking, attention, and it seemed like all of them really resonated with these are important topics. However, when I came to frustration, some climbers thought that it was not helpful, but then some thought it was helpful. So that got me into reflecting more about this particular topic. Is frustration really helpful? And so I gained some insights over the years in reflecting about this idea. Frustration motivates you to achieve. You didn't achieve your goal or expectations. This frustrates and motivates you. Frustration motivates you to achieve your goals. Curiosity motivates you to learn. Again, you didn't achieve your goal or expectations. This creates curiosity and motivates you to learn more. Curiosity motivates you to learn so you can achieve your goal and expectations. So you can see that both frustration and curiosity can motivate you to move through life toward your objectives, toward your goals. Frustration is what's most important is the achievement of the goal. And so you're willing to be motivated by frustration and kind of have a frustrating life just as long as you can achieve your goal. Whereas curiosity is motivated more for the process, for the learning itself that takes you toward your goal. Now, what's really interesting is that this is about when you come up against an adversity. If you're not meeting your expectations, you're not achieving your goals, then you're hitting a roadblock, right? You're hitting an adversity. You're hitting something hard. And there's a time limit, you might say, between when you hit that wall, that adversity, and when you get to the other side of it. And the thing to understand is that whether you're going to choose to be frustrated or motivated by frustration, or if you're going to be motivated by curiosity, you're going to traverse the same amount of time. That you're essentially choosing how you're going to create the life that you want to have. So this goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's like the mindset, mental training, and all of these concepts that we're investigating. You're looking at the kind of mindset that they create that help you create the kind of life you want to have. So what causes frustration? Well, essentially, it's you're not getting your needs met. You're not getting your expectations met. You're not achieving your goal. However, when you get shut down, something still needs to be learned. I like to use a graph where, let's say, a challenge has a certain, like a bar graph. Okay, this is the level of the challenge. Well, this is the level of your skills. So if you're getting frustrated because you didn't achieve your expectations or achieve your goal, then there's a gap there that's missing. And that gap is you need to learn more skills, improve your skills more so you can close that gap. So essentially, and this I think is a really helpful way to understand or put frustration into a context that you can work with, is that when you get frustrated, you're essentially wanting to close that gap. You're wanting to get that piece of learning for no effort. Essentially, you want something for nothing. But life really doesn't work that way. I ponder about, well, is frustration helpful or not? And I think just about any behavior can be helpful for a short period of time. It can help you achieve your goals, and maybe over time, as you're going through that process, you get a real a breadth of experience about what it's like to live a life of frustration and to constantly be seeking goals and then be dissatisfied when you're not achieving the goals quickly enough. So you can live your life through a certain behavior for a certain amount of time so that you get an actual experience of what it's like to live that way. Because you're the one experiencing your life and you need to feel that within yourself before you can actually want to make a behavior change. So I think frustration can be helpful in a sense that it kind of gives you an experience that ultimately leads you toward a realization that there must be a better way, a better behavior. Another thing that I think is really unhelpful about, or one thing that's unhelpful about frustration, is it's kind of a victim approach to life. It's like you're not getting your expectations met, and you're throwing a temper tantrum. Well, how do you deal with frustration? Everything in mental training begins with awareness. So you need to recognize when you get frustrated. You also need to choose to want to move in a different direction. But awareness is the first step. You need to be aware that this kind of behavior is not something that is adding value to your life. And then you can choose to do something different. You can choose to act in a different way. You can choose a different behavior. And specifically here, we're looking at choosing the behavior of curiosity. So here's how. First, you accept responsibility for whatever adversities occur in your life. Accepting responsibility means you look toward yourself for making changes. You don't blame others or life or the adversities. You accept what occurred as your current life reality. Second, you change behavior by making a choice. You choose to focus your attention differently. You choose to focus it on what you can personally do. This choice gives you agency. Third, you apply curiosity to shift attention to adversity. This focuses your attention on actions to take so you can learn and grow from the adversity. So you can reflect on the kind of life that you are going to create, the kind of life that you're going to create and then experience if you have a life of frustration, as opposed to a life of curiosity. The choice is there for you to make. You're responsible for the choices that you make in how you're going to deal with the certain challenges in your life. So here you have a choice to go in the direction of frustration or a choice to go in the direction of curiosity. The warrior approach to life is that at a very foundational level is that you're not a victim. You are going to accept as much responsibility as you can to respond to the situation, to do what you can with the given circumstances of your life. And the first part of the warrior approach is to become aware of this natural comfort-seeking tendency of the mind, which is unconscious. It's constantly sabotaging how life really is. Life really is about learning and growth. And so if your habituated comfort-seeking patterns in your mind are directing you toward getting frustrated when you're not getting your expectations met, then this is what a warrior can't tolerate. That a warrior approach to mental training and life addresses this, brings it to conscious awareness so that you can then change behavior. Frustration and curiosity, they're not just words, they have qualitative impacts on your attention. So I want to just do a little drill here. You can just look at your hand, okay? But first I want you to kind of look with an attitude of frustration. You know what that's like. You're frustrated, and so you're looking at your hand. I'm looking at my hand and going like, why are all these wrinkles here? And I got a little catch in my skin right there, and my nails look like crap. You know, I'm looking at this situation with an attitude of frustration. Well, that impacts my attention, right? And I want to explore that in a moment, but first we can look at it, your hand, look at a situation with an attitude of curiosity. You know, your whole demeanor changes when you take on an attitude of curiosity. I'm curious about the lines in my hand. I'm curious about the sensations that I'm feeling. I can feel like tingling. I can feel or see a scar that I've had, you know, showing that I've been through a lot of different life experiences and this hand has really helped me. So the impact on attention that these two words have, the kind of attitude that you take on, frustration withdraws attention. First of all, I'm looking at what I don't like about a situation, and I'm withdrawing attention into my mind, dwelling on how I think life should be instead of focusing attention on how life is and working with it. Whereas with curiosity, attention is moved toward the situation. I'm actually looking at the details of the situation, my hand, so that I can start working with it and learning from it. This is foundational to mental training. You know, the words that we use and how we speak to ourselves creates the attitudes that we have, that create decisions that we make for how we're going to focus our attention, that create the actions that we carry out in our lives. Words are important, and here we're looking at these two words and how they impact your attention. So choose curiosity. Catch yourself. Behavior change begins with awareness. Notice frustration as it happens. Pause. Take a moment to let awareness expand. This diminishes reactivity and creates a gap for behaving differently. You notice your reactivity and pause. Shift to curiosity. Now behave differently. Be curious. You know you don't want something for nothing. You want something for something. You want achievement for learning what's necessary to achieve. So enjoy your journey, and remember, be curious creates a better life than frustration. Routes near your limit offer the greatest opportunity for learning, but they become recipes for frustration if you have a results-based expectation. Frustration is a sign that your attention has faltered. You want something for nothing. Once we fully accept difficulty as natural and normal, we cease to be offended or daunted when we encounter a struggle or a test. We can embrace these tests as opportunities. Difficult experiences are the way we learn, and they also are the way we can appreciate ease. We understand brightness by its contrast to dimness, happiness by its relationship to sadness. By embracing this duality of experience, we allow ourselves to find peace within our difficulties rather than wasting our power on trying to escape them. We shift to a position of power by focusing on seeds of opportunity within difficulty and staying curious by exploring reality instead of avoiding it. I always like to recommend a book in these monthly topics. So for this one, particularly around frustration and curiosity, curiosity does value learning. So this book by Josh Waitzkin, The Art of Learning, I found to be really interesting. Josh was a world champion in chess and in Tai Chi push hands, the martial art. And he really goes into the nuances of the learning process. So I think you'll find this book quite interesting and helpful for seeing the value of curiosity and also how that can lead you toward understanding the learning process better. Of course, you got my books, Rock Warriors Way and Espresso Lessons. Rock Warriors Way is a more philosophical treatment of the material. Espresso Lessons is a practical treatment of the material. They both go into all of the material comprehensively.